Hello, my name is Stephan Kreipl. I'm Chief Project Owner for IBP for Demand. IBP for Demand is our demand management solution in IBP covering, among others, demand planning and demand sensing. And we are really happy to have here today with us Mehmet Demirci, who is our Product Owner for Demand Sensing. Mehmet, what is demand sensing all about?
Sure. So demand sensing essentially is about optimizing the short-term forecast. And what that means is sensing demand using sophisticated machine learning algorithms by looking at the latest demand signals that the supply chain sees. So these supply chain signals are things like the latest sales patterns, how consensus forecast is able to track sales and how good or bad it is, what kind of bias it carries, along with what our open orders tell us, what kind of trends do we see in open orders and where are they today? Are they pointing to lower or higher sales? And also users are able to leverage any kind of external data, any data that might be even external to their supply chain, such as point of sales, retailer data, or social sentiment ratios, so on and so forth. Demand sensing takes advantage of these and understands the correlation and is able to better predict short-term demand.
One question now, Mehmet. What is the big difference between demand sensing and demand planning?
Yes, that's a very common question. So demand sensing does not replace demand planning. It actually complements it and becomes a very important part of it. When you look at traditional demand planning and statistical forecasting, what you see is statistics-based algorithms that look at a history of sales, try to predict a medium long-term outlook of the future, such as what is my demand going to be over the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. And typically, traditional demand planning also looks at a more aggregate level, like a product level or a region level or a customer group level. And typically, the time horizon also is in months, and the frequency at which the planning is repeated is also either in months or weeks. So there's typically some aggregation going on. The question becomes, how do you translate this to operations, to execution? That's where demand sensing comes in. It leverages the power of machine learning to really take you from that demand plan to the level at you actually run your business, which is very granular, daily, product, location, customer, by understanding the trends, patterns, and helping you adapt to what's coming down the road for execution.
Okay, thank you very much. Mehmet, how are our users today using demand sensing in their day-to-day life?
I'd like to focus on 3 things. Number 1 is the visibility into sense demand and the factors affecting it. So what SAP IBP does very well is it provides a very good combination of strong analytics and intelligent algorithms. For demand sensing, as a user, let's say, if I'm interested in what's going on with a certain product, I can take a look at the history of that product combined with what demand sensing senses the future to be. But that's just not it. It also tells me very strong indications of root cause analysis. It tells me specifically why it's adjusting the forecast up or down. Is it because it's sensing something in the sales pattern? Is it because the consensus forecast is missing the mark? Is it because open orders are telling me something else? Or maybe point of sales is drawing a different picture? So that's number 1. Number 2, it also helps users track demand performance and any improvements that demand sensing might bring. What I mean by that is planners typically look at forecast error, forecast bias, and they look at both of these metrics, both for the consensus forecast without any demand sensing intervention versus how demand sensing is adjusting the forecast. And they're able to look at across locations, products, or ABC, XYZ type volume and uncertainty type analysis. They're able to really pinpoint the demand drivers and any points of demand predictability issues in their supply chain. And the third piece is, through having these analytics at their fingertips, SAP IBP also gives them an excellent exceptions management, alert management type framework. For example, it's very popular for our users to set up some alerts around seeing whether if consensus demand and sense demand are farther apart than a pre-specified threshold, or recent performance and forecast error or bias hasn't been up to the standards of where they want to see. And they can really dive into the other 2 points I told you about by looking at that exception and deep diving into what are the factors that are driving the difference in behavior, the alert to be triggered. And then they can either decide there's something going on in the supply chain where a human needs to interfere because there's additional knowledge that statistics can't capture and maybe override a planning target, or they can collaborate with their demand and supply planners to focus on issues that lead to different planning targets.
Great, thank you for those insights. And now my last question, Mehmet, probably the most interesting one. What are the expected benefits of using demand sensing?
Yes, that's a very good question. So like we said, demand sensing really gets us closer to execution. It helps us understand what the near-term future will be, how customer demand will reveal itself before it does reveal itself. It has some very interesting benefits in that regard. Although we've been really working with some of the most mature supply chains in this area, we've seen 10 to 25% improvement in forecast error across our clients. And this is on average. Some have been above that as well. So the specific benefits from demand sensing comes from the fact that it combines that uncertainty to the execution part of the supply chain. It resides between demand planning and downstream processes like supply planning, inventory planning, allocation, and deployment. So with demand sensing, you are getting a closer picture to reality, which means you're getting better allocation, deployment, transportation decisions. You're right-sizing inventory better, and what I mean by that is if there is overselling type issues, it will help you drive inventory up before the time comes, but overall it will help you reduce inventory through forecast accuracy improvement. And also one of the hidden benefits of demand sensing is this automation. You get daily numbers that are very accurate in an automated fashion. In some of the fast-moving industries that we work with, there's a lot of manual workforce that goes into trying to optimize that daily movement. Having this automation at your fingertips becomes very helpful and really lets your planners focus on the strategic scenario analysis and shortage analysis that they might need to dive into rather than manual models.
Oh, thank you. Very impressive numbers. Thank you, Mehmet.
Thank you so much, Stephan.
If you would like to get more information on demand sensing in IBP, we have now a YouTube demo video available. You can find the link in the description below, where you can get a sense on the user interface and on the end-to-end processes within IBP demand sensing.